Join us as we dive into our obsession with true crime, history, and mysterious stories. Each Corrupted Clip episode is less than 30 minutes long, providing you with the perfect bite-sized content to get you through the day.
We assume no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this episode. The Corrupt Podcast is based on the facts and our opinions of the case. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Corrupt Podcast. Robert Johnson was an American musician in the 1930s. According to legend, Robert met the devil at a crossroads and was the first musician to sell his soul for rock and roll. The grandson of slaves, Robert Leroy Johnson, was born on May 8, 1911, in Mississippi. Robert's mother, Julia Ann Majors, was married at least 3 times and had an affair with Robert's father, Noah Johnson, in the fall of 1910. Noah was 14 years younger than Julia and worked at a sawmill. Robert was born out of wedlock and was one of 11 children.
Based on consensus documentation, Julia Ann was listed as divorced in 1910, so this might not have actually been an affair on Julia's part.
Robert tried to learn guitar as a teenager, but he didn't excel at it. He also played the harmonica and wrote songs.
Robert was a good harmonica player, but it seemed his goal was to be a talented guitarist.
Again, based on census documentation, this time in 1920, we know that Robert was living in Arkansas with Julia and her new husband. In February 1929, 19-year-old Robert married 16-year-old Virginia Travis. Robert was away performing when Virginia went into labor. Virginia and the baby died during childbirth on April 10, 1930. The blues band Son House moved to a nearby area and performed weekly at a bar in 1930. During breaks, Son House allowed Robert to play their guitars. Son House said Robert was terrible, and he was often asked to stop playing their guitars. Later, Son House would say, quote,
"He sold his soul to the devil to get to play like that."
This was in reference to the huge improvement on the guitar.
Robert had a fling with Virgie Kane in 1931. Virgie gets pregnant and gives birth to their son, Claude Johnson, on December 16, 1931. Robert does offer to marry Virgie, but for some unknown reason, Virgie's parents are unwilling to let them get married. Claude meets Robert for a moment in 1937. By the time Robert comes to visit and meet Claude, the rumor about Robert selling his soul to the devil was circulating. Virgie and Claude were living with her parents, and they wanted nothing to do with a man who would sell his soul. In a 2000 interview, Claude was quoted saying,
"We were living in my granddaddy's and grandmama's house. They were religious people, and they thought that the blues was the devil's music. People back then believed that. They told my daddy they didn't want no part of him. They said he was working for the devil, and they wouldn't even let me go out and touch him. I stood in the door and he stood on the ground, and that is as close as I ever got to him. Finally, he said, 'Well, I might as well go on.' He wandered off and I never saw him again."
Robert remarried on May 4, 1931, to Coletta Callie Kraft. Callie was 10 years older than Robert and had 2 children from a prior marriage. Robert's marriage to Callie is a little blurry on the details. The common assumption is that Callie gets pregnant, but she dies during childbirth in 1932. By most accounts, Callie died in 1932, but we don't know for certain if it was due to childbirth or even if the baby was Robert's. After Callie's death, Robert traveled around the southern United States for 12 to 18 months. There are 2 theories on what Robert did during that time. He either traveled and focused on learning the guitar with mentor Ike Zimmerman, or the second theory, which is more of a legend, says that it's also the time that Robert traded his soul to the devil. The story goes like this. Robert spoke with an old man and was instructed to take his guitar to the crossroads near Dockery Plantation to meet the devil. Robert did as he was instructed and went to the crossroads before midnight with his guitar. At midnight, the devil appeared, tuned the guitar, and played a song. According to the legend, the devil then gave the guitar back to Robert in exchange for his soul. Robert's soul was doomed to hell and a young death.
I don't think this is possible. I don't think the devil would know how to tune a guitar.
That's where you're drawing the line? The tuning the guitar?
That is where my line is. Like, I don't think God ever taught him, and God is, he knows everything. He teaches everybody, like, there's no way that the devil would know that. So I don't believe that theory. Nope.
I agree with you to some extent. The common sense solution is yes, he went with his mentor, he trains for, 12 to 18 months and masters this. But on the flip side, I'm telling you, I was researching this case at 1 a.m. and I got seriously creeped out. Like by the end of it, I was convinced, I'm like, this man sold his soul to the devil. It was eerie. The music is eerie. It's 1930s blues, so it is a little eerier than maybe our music today. But there is something about it that just rubs the wrong way.
Is blues music rock and roll, really?
Well, this is where rock gets its roots. Bob Dylan and Eric Clapton both list Robert Johnson as main inspirations for them. And then from there, it continues to spiral, down to the song we talked about this morning is the Pretty Reckless Take Me Down. It's a direct correlation to Robert's story.
At that time, I feel like the people, anything different than your, traditional music at that age, it was like pointed at and was like, that's devil's music. I don't know if I believe that at all with the whole devil thing, but it is eerie. It is eerie.
It's definitely eerie.
Robert recorded his first and only album between November 1936 and the summer of 1937. Knowing the rumors about selling his soul, Robert played it up by naming songs Me and the Devil Blues, Hellhound on My Trail, and Crossroad. There are 29 total songs by Robert Johnson. The song Crossroad supports the legend the most. Referring to himself as Bob, the lyrics discuss going to the crossroad and being chased by a hellhound. The lyrics go, I went to the crossroad, fell down on my knees. I went to the crossroad, fell down on my knees. Ask the Lord above, have mercy. Now save poor Bob, if you please. The lyric continues on to say, I believe to my soul, now poor Bob is sinking down. Robert played a custom 7-string guitar made from his 6-string guitar. This gave him a distinct sound, almost like there was a second guitarist. Robert was arrested for vagrancy. He was given 45 cents for breakfast by Don Law, his music producer. Before the morning, Don received a call from Robert. Robert said that he had a girl in his room that wanted 50 cents, and he only had 45 cents.
It would appear that Robert wasted no time in hiring himself a prostitute.
Yep. Friends say that Robert was a big ladies' man and a mean drunk. He liked whiskey, but would start fights and curse God when he was drunk.
They say that he liked women and whiskey.
2 W's. Recording in the studio paid Robert a couple $100. This would have been big money for Robert during the Great Depression.
Robert passed away at 27 years old on August 16, 1938. There is just as much mystery about Robert's death as there is about his life. Robert's death certificate would be found in 1968 by journalist Gail Dean Wardlow, but the cause of his death was not listed. A possible cause of death was syphilis that had been passed down from his parents. However, fellow musician and friend Sonny Boy Williamson was with Robert at the Three Forks Bar on August 13, 1938. Robert had been performing at the same bar for a couple of weeks, but he was also having an affair with a married woman at the Three Forks Bar. Allegedly, the woman's husband gave Robert a drink that was poisoned, and Robert died 3 days later. The legend that Robert sold his soul to the devil continues. It is said that when it came time for Robert to pay up on his exchange, the devil said he never promised Robert would be famous in his lifetime, only that he would be famous.
Gotta watch out for them.
Loophole.
Yeah, that devil. Can never trust him.
There's also debate on the location of Robert's gravesite. His death certificate says he's buried at Zion Church in Lafleur County, Mississippi. Lafleur County has 3 churches with Zion in the name. He could be buried at Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church in Morgan City, Little Zion Church in Greenwood, or the Mount Zion Church in Greenwood. Friends say he went into an unmarked grave, but there's no information on which church. While popular when he was alive, unfortunately Robert's music disappears with his death, until in 1961, when Columbia Records released Robert's album titled King of the Delta Blues Singers. This album skyrocketed Robert back to fame and is known as the most influential blues albums. Bands like Led Zeppelin, the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, and Eric Clapton were influenced by Robert's music.
He won a Grammy in 1990 for Best Historical Album, and he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame lists Robert as possibly the first ever rock star. Robert was the first musician to be considered part of the 27 Club, along with Jim Morrison, Brian Jones, Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse. This club is made up of musicians and actors that died at 27 years old. After years of legal battles, Claude was declared the heir of Robert's estate in 2000. Claude was paid over $1 million in back royalties on his father's estate. Until 2020, there had only ever been 2 photos of Robert. Robert's 94-year-old stepsister wrote a memoir about Robert and released a 3rd photo. The book is titled Brother Robert, Growing Up with Robert Johnson, and shows a photo of Robert holding his guitar and smiling on the cover. The 2 prior photos also show Robert holding his guitar. In one photo, he's sitting on a chair with a hat and a guitar in his hand. The other photo, he's holding a guitar with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth.
The 2 older photos have colorized versions available online. It's easier to write off the tragedy of Robert's life when photos are in black and white, but when it's colorized, Robert just seems more human and relevant. We'll post the colorized photos on our socials.
By the way, what song was it when you got the heebie-jeebies when you were listening to his music at night?
It was kind of all of it. Crossroad, I guess, mostly. But there's movies that you can watch online that just, I don't know, something, like I said, rubbed me the wrong way. And it was way too late at night. And it just seemed like, okay, this seems legitimate. Like, we should not be messing. It's kind of like the Ouija board. Like, you should not be messing with this stuff. This is territory better left untouched.
I give you props because, like, you do most, if not all, the research here. And the fact that you had to listen to this, like, I kind of steered away from it. Honestly, I was like, if it gives you the heebie-jeebies, I am not going to even try it because you are a hardcore rock star.
We listen to a lot of rock and metal in my house, but this, taking it back to the roots and just being blues and then so eerie. I don't know. My husband thought I was crazy, so there's probably nothing to it. Sleep deprivation.
See, I love blues music, so maybe I do need to give it a try.
Yeah.
The Robert Johnson Blues Foundation was created to honor Robert's memory and inspire future musicians. The Robert Johnson Blues Museum is located in Crystal Springs, Mississippi. The foundation steps in to provide scholarships to young musicians of any genre.
We would love for you to become part of the Corrupt crew. You can find us on Patreon with multiple tiers and PayPal. This will score you our appreciation and will announce your name in a future episode. Both links are in the episode notes. Case suggestions and feedback can be emailed to us at corruptpod@gmail.com.
The sources for this episode would be listed in the episode notes. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Threads. Don't forget to subscribe to catch our new Corrupt content. Please also leave us a review wherever you're listening to this episode. Bye.
Bye.